what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We are in Honesdale, Pennsylvania at the Stourbridge Line Railroad on today, a very infamous day in U.S. history, December 7th. We are honoring the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and today we have a special program here, and we do have a special guest from Oregon, Cece Otto. Cece, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. Hi. Yeah, it's nice to be here. My name is Cece Otto. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a music historian, and I sing vintage music. I basically bring the past back to life through story and song.
What will you be doing for us today? Any idea of some of the songs you want to share tell us what you're going to be doing?
Well, there's going to be a mix of World War I and World War II music because, of course, there were a lot of those everything is old is new again songs. So there might be an Over There might be some We'll Meet Again, there might even be a Christmas song that Irving Berlin wrote during World War II that I think people will really appreciate and enjoy, and I just look forward to entertaining everybody on the car. Yeah.
And I believe you've been up here once before. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are of the Stourbridge Line Railroad and your past performance here.
Yeah, I was here in 2019, and it was an amazing experience. It was literally and figuratively a trip back in time. It was just unbelievable, and I really enjoyed my time here. And when I was asked to come back for this event to commemorate this, I just was so honored. So honored to be back here.
And what does December 7th mean to you?
It means, it really is a day that lives in infamy. I think still it echoes down through the generations. It's not been forgotten, and hopefully it won't be.
We have a special surprise for you today. I hadn't planned on this, and yet I had kind of secretly planned about it. Winston Churchill. I'm going to let the commanding officer of the Asian force, South Pacific, excuse me. Okay, here you are.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I have returned. I told you I'd be back. We're not here today to celebrate the starting of a war. We're here to celebrate the people who came to, volunteered, and went out and fought the battles. Our veterans, and all those too who are on the home front. 80 years ago, General MacArthur lost his Air Force, his army was in retreat, and he was ordered out. And he made it. When he got to Australia, he got on the back of a train, just like this one, and he made this speech. Here's how it went. The President of the United States ordered me to break through the Japanese lines and proceed from Corregidor to Australia for the purpose, as I understand, of organizing the American offensive against Japan. I came through, and I shall return. That speech, ladies and gentlemen, was the key word that everybody wanted to hear. We're going back. We're not taking this. And that man, when he was presented to the Australian General Wiley, he said, we're not going on the defensive. We're going to go get them. And that started the island hopping regime that he came through with, and we won that battle. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there's something else you should know. I'm an Englishman. I was born in London in 1936. I lived through the bombing as a boy. I chased after these GIs for chocolate and chewing gum as a boy. And here I am all these years later. I've lived the American dream. I served as an Army aviator during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it is a great honor for me today to be able to introduce my greatest fan of the world, Winston Churchill.
There you go. Thank you, General. Thank you very much.
You know, many of you might not know that I'm half American. My mother had been born in the States. And most recently I came to America to spend Christmas with my friend Franklin and discuss how we were going to take care finally of Jerry. It was very interesting to me as we went through the darkest days between 38 and 40. We knew that once Belgium fell and Luxembourg, that France would be very, very quickly behind it. But I took great care giving a speech to the House in which I told them that we would never, never, never give up. That was the American blood in me. When I talked about their finest hour, I was not only talking about the fine boys that took to the Spitfires, General, and to the Hurricanes, but I was talking also to the American young men. As you know, you weren't in the war when we did the Battle of Britain, but there were several of our boys from America that joined shoulder to shoulder with the Brits. So it wasn't only Britain's finest hour, in my belief, but it was also America's finest hour, because they knew that we were not only saving the United Kingdom, but we were saving Western civilization. For that, I am eternally grateful, and I am very, very happy to be here with my fellow Americans on this most solemn occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have our local general, our hero here at home, who's here to help us escort these young recruits, General Douglas.
I want to thank everybody who's here today. I know many of you, since I grew up in Honesdale, and I've lived here almost all of my life, with the exception of 3 years in the military. And I was wearing my rank on my sleeves, not on my shoulders at the time. But I was fortunate enough to have grown up right across the street from Lyman Lemnitzer. And we knew that man as Uncle Lem, as when we were little kids. Next to my father, he was probably my greatest hero. And Dad, of course, has to hold that preeminent position over the general, but I've always admired what the general did. General Lemnitzer graduated from West Point in 2 years, which I'm sure most people here don't know. The reason it was 2 years is because World War I was on, and they were looking for people to go out and help fight the Boche and help end World War I. The war did end before the general ever got over there, but he still wears a decoration for World War I Victory Medal as well as World War II. He went on and spent the next 20 years in the military, and just before World War II started, the man was promoted to major. He went from major to brigadier general in about 6 weeks. That took a lot of hopping in rank to go up, but he was poised. He had a lot of time in service, and they needed more officers for World War II. One of his first assignments was, as a brigadier general, was the commanding general of the 34th Anti-Aircraft Artillery Brigade, which was one of Patton's units. And when he left Patton, he was still a brigadier, and Patton pulled him aside and he said, "General," he says, "I would just like you to know that you commanded more men in combat than most of my division commanders did, and you were only a brigadier general, and your brigade had more men in it than full divisions did. Lemnitzer went on to other commands after that, but he always highly respected General Patton for that part of what Patton did. A very different man than Patton, but it took the work of everybody from every community in this country to help us to win that war, and win that war we did. When General Lemnitzer came home, there is a photograph on the front of the Wayne Independent that shows 10,000 people, if you can believe that, gathered in Central Park. And Lemnitzer was wearing basically the uniform I have on right now when he spoke to a crowd of 10,000 people at Holmesdale gathered in Central Park to celebrate the ends of the war. I want to thank everybody for coming. I think this is a remarkable event that Tom has put on for everyone. It should be a great introduction to World War II history. I especially want to thank all the kids from Holmesdale High School who are here. And we will be coming through to talk to you a little bit as the train ride goes on. And before you leave the train today, I have a little piece of World War II memorabilia for each and every one of you. But thank you all for coming today, and enjoy this trip.
Thank you, Stan, during General Lemnitzer. Ladies and gentlemen, this war was not won by men alone. It was won also with the aid and the help of civilians, and more importantly, the Women's Army Corps, or WACs as we know them today. I have one last individual I'd like to talk to you about this. It's Colonel Woodcock. Oh, excuse me, Colonel Wyman, right? Okay. Colonel, if you will.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm so glad to see so many people here to help recognize this important date in history. I'd like to speak about the women during World War II, those who served in industry or in the military system. I am proud to be able to portray and represent the women. These are the women who worked in industry or supported the military system. Some women served in the military as nurses on board hospital ships. Others served the industry as clerks or secretaries at the war depots, all not only supporting the military system, but also the old guard then, who lacked the awareness and women's capabilities could equal the men, not only in combat, but also in industry. I'm happy to say that is all changing now. In my many decades of service in industry, and with many discussions with women veterans, I've become painfully aware of those shortcomings. And I can truly appreciate the personal drive and dedication these women had to have had then and even now to serve their country, to do their duty, and while pursuing a career. My husband and I not only support the veterans, but you, the men and women who serve today, protecting our hard-won peace in this very unsettled world. You are serving in the finest military in the world, and your service, your professionalism, and your dedication shows it. And we're all proud of you. Thank you, and God bless America.
ladies and gentlemen, the program today involves a little bit of these movements, primarily to bring troops our awareness that we have been attacked. And we're taking these troops or recruits down to Camp Hawley, where we're going to say goodbye to them on buses as they leave for World War II. I left my wife home with 2 little girls and went from Germany over to Vietnam and then back. I was a company commander in Vietnam, aviation helicopter unit. We were direct in support. I had my buddy Stan where he had, there he is, Buddy's grandson here, Tommy. He was in my unit over there. We just recently celebrated our anniversary of in Vietnam in Tucson, Arizona. And all the stones in the world that are etched in the names of the soldiers that preceded us, that gave us. The one thing that we have our freedom. And our freedom is important. God bless you all. We're going to move the train up and load everybody up. The conductor will call all aboard. Tim is your conductor today.
Are we from home still? No, we moved from New York to Beach Lake a year ago. Nearby. Yeah, nearby. Yep.
Let's say goodbye with a smile, dear. Just for a while, dear, we must part. Don't let the parting upset you. I'll not forget you, sweetheart. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. After the rain comes the rainbow. You'll see the rainbow, never fear. We two can wait for tomorrow. Goodbye to sorrow, my dear. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Of all the boys I've known, and I've known some, until I first met you I was lonesome. And then you came in sight, dear, my heart grew light, and this whole world seemed new to me. You're really swell, I have to admit. You give your expressions that really fit you, and so I've racked my brain hoping to explain all the things that you do to me. By mere Mr. Shane, please let me explain. By mere bis du schön means that you're grand. Bei mir bist du schön. Again, I'll explain. It means you're the fairest in the land. I could say Bella, Bella, even say wunderbar. Each language only helps me tell you how grand you are. I've tried to explain. Bei mir bist du schön. So kiss me and say you understand. Bei mir bist du schön. Please let me explain. Bei mir bist du schön means that you're grand. Bei mir bist du schön. Again, I'll explain. It means that my heart's at your command. I could say Bella, Bella, even say wunderbar. Each language only helps me tell you how grand you are. I've tried to explain. Bei mir bist du schön. So kiss me and say you understand. How was that? Wunderbar?
Wunderbar!
Yes. Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling you and me, every son of liberty. Hurry right away, no delay, go today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad. Tell your sweetheart not to pine, to be proud of boys in line. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Johnny, show the Hun you're a son of a gun. Hoist the flag and let her fly. Yankee Doodle, do or die. Pack your little kit, show your grit, do your bit. Yankees to the ranks, from the towns and the tanks. Make your mother proud of you, and the old red, white, and blue. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Good choice, thank you. Cool. Hi.
Tell them about the prelude of that song. People should know.
What, of God Bless America?
Very
Yes.
impressive. Very. Oops.
Do you know the prelude of God Bless America,
Go ahead.
everyone?
I'll-
So Irving Berlin wrote God Bless America during World War I. And that prelude, that introduction, he didn't like the original words that were there, so he actually shelved it.
And then once things were brewing in Europe in the late 1930s, he reworked the introduction, and then of course he gave the song to Kate Smith, and the rest is history. And the prelude goes as this, for those of you who don't know it. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God, and then it goes right into God Bless America. But that introduction's not done much anymore, if at all. But I do it typically when I perform it. It's one of my most requested songs. Everybody loves a person in vintage attire singing God Bless America at their event, and I'm happy to do it.
Not a lot of people know that prelude.
No, they don't. And Irving Berlin knew how to write a melody as a singer. Like, it's so easy and fun to sing his stuff. It's just so nice. So I love singing that prelude. Yeah. The sun is shining, the grass is green, the orange and palm trees sway. There's never been such a day in Beverly Hills, LA. But it's December the 24th, and I am longing to be up north. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
All right. So what we have here is a number of memorabilia from World War II. They're all authentic. We can start right out here with a samurai sword. This samurai sword was a battle find, and it was from Saipan, the Battle of Saipan. It was an officer's samurai, and the difference is that inside is the autograph scribed in there of the sword maker. And the ones that were made for NCOs were all stamped out, but these are the ones that were passed down from hundreds of years in their family. We have here M1 Grand. This M1 Grand is what the soldiers were issued, and probably one of the best pieces of armaments they could have, because it was, other than other armies, this was a semi-automatic 8-shot, and everybody else had to use a bolt-action single shot where we can outpower, outshoot, and put more lead in the air than any other army other than fully automatic weapons. This is a pretty interesting thing. This is a Japanese cavalry carbine. Now, this folds down and collapses into the gun, and they would put this on their horses because it was a cavalry. And one thing I didn't tell anybody else that was here before is that after World War II, the Emperor did not want any of their weapons surrendered with their insignia on it, okay? And they had the, what do you call it, the floral cluster on it. Every one had to be ground down before they turned it in. It was spiritual to them, okay? To find one with it on is very, very valuable. Remember that, okay? Most everything was ground down. This is an original paper that was printed up after the attack on Pearl Harbor. It's falling apart, and probably you could buy a pound of bologna for 50 cents if it's listed on the advertisements. Who knows? These are cigarette packs. These are called flat 50s, 50 cigarettes. Something very interesting, that in the beginning of the war, their craftsmanship were able to produce beautiful bayonets for their guns, highly crafted. By the end of the war, because of all the attacks by submarines, preventing all the raw materials for them collecting to work on metals and everything else in their war effort, this is called a last-ditch bayonet. The scabbard, instead of leather, is wood, wrapped in vines to hold it together, and hammered metal, raw. It's very archaic, so to speak. And that's all they could produce because they didn't have the raw materials. These are boots, combat boots, real combat boots from World War II. Actually belonged to my uncle, and they were in Europe, so they saw plenty of miles in Europe. What we have here is a general's belt, a 45, bayonets. But something very interesting that you might want to see is this flag. This just isn't a standard Japanese meatball flag. This is called a float flag. And every pilot, including the pilots that flew into Pearl Harbor, would have had one of these folded up in their cockpit, so that if they were shot down and landed in the water, this edging had a chemical in it, and it would swell up and float so that their own planes could see that as they held the flag that they were Japanese and not to be strafed. This is a Japanese helmet, and the funny thing about their helmets, they just had like a little piece of canvas they tied in a bow underneath, as opposed to clips and everything else. Canteen, it actually has some script on it, which I can't read. And that's about all I have here for you. Okay? So, young man, learn your stuff. Pick up pieces, little pieces, all you can.
I'm Bob Savakinus, in a nutshell program, and today we are on a special trip on the Honesdale at the Stourbridge Line Railroad, and we have a very famous individual from the Pacific Campaign, General Douglas MacArthur. General MacArthur, tell us a little bit about today's events and about General MacArthur's thoughts.
Well, December 7th was a terrible day in the American history and for the world. When MacArthur found himself without his Air Force, but at his Army, he was in big trouble, and so was America. So he took on an attitude of, we're going to come back. And you can imagine this guy, with all this military backing he had, being wasted, what he must have felt like. And by the time he got to Australia, he must have felt pretty damn bad. So while he was mulling it all over, like a lot of us do, we come up with, what the hell are we going to do now? Well, he was real smart. He got on the back of a train like this, and when all the people met him in Adelaide, Australia, he put on a nice clean uniform. He went out there like nothing's going on, and he said, "The President of the United States ordered me to break through the Japanese lines and proceed from Corregidor to Australia for the purpose, as I understand it, of organizing the American offensive against Japan. I came through, and I shall return." Those words were the words that everybody wanted to hear. When I was a kid in England, I remember picking up a matchbox, and guess what it said on the back of that matchbox? "I shall return." It was a positive statement that everybody wanted to hear. Kind of like what's happening today. People want to know what the hell's going on and where do we go from here. So nothing's changed. War's a war. We've seen them all. I've seen it all. I was in the Cuban Missile Crisis as an Army aviator. These gentlemen in Vietnam, they've seen it all. It seems to go on and on. But the good news is, freedom always works out because of strong men and women who are determined to be free. And that's my message. I'm especially proud to portray one of America's greatest generals. I was born in London, 1936. My parents and I were bombed out in 1940 3 times. My father was a London firefighter. He finally said, "We can't survive this." And so we moved out of town to a little town called Luton. Luton was where the shoe bomber came from. You remember that cat? Well, anyway, we survived the war in Luton, Bedfordshire. I went to the local university there and got my degree in electrical aviation, electrical degree. And I joined the RAF at 15 because I loved airplanes. And by 17, I was flying. The British had lost all their pilots during the war, and I was a candidate for a flying officer. So I knew my career was going to be aviation. But I've got to tell you this little story. I worked for an aircraft company, and the little girl I was dating was the chief test pilot's secretary. And so, I'll tell you about it later. So anyway, I flew a lot, and I knew how to fly. And this young lady's father said to me, "You know, you're a pretty smart kid. Why don't you go to the States? You and her could do well over there." So we did. And it was the greatest thing he ever did for me, because I wound up in Army aviation. I wound up with Boeing. I did everything from flight tests to program management. We did not survive the marriage. She was homesick so terribly. I had found an adventure. I was an American. And the Army gave me all kinds of aviation experience. I got a good job with Boeing helicopters, met my wife there, and lived happily ever after. I have lived the American dream. And so now we go around all these air shows promoting our veterans and thanking them for what we have today. And that's the bottom line. We're not celebrating the start of World War II. We're celebrating the men and women who rose to the occasion and helped fight it and win it. And that's my message. Never, ever give up.
Thank you, General MacArthur. And your real name for our audience, where you reside at?
Well, my name is Brian Reginald Woodcock, a good old British name, you know. And we live in northern Delaware. And believe it or not, we live 2 miles from President Biden. Biden and I used to be in parades together in the Hockessin neighborhood.
Well, Thank you today for being with us and portraying General MacArthur, and for all that you do in promoting our history of remembering what our world and country has gone through and survived.
Let's say goodbye with a smile, dear. Just for a while, dear, we must part. Don't let the parting upset you. I'll not forget you, sweetheart. After the rain comes the rainbow. You'll see the rainbow, never fear. We two can wait for tomorrow. Goodbye to sorrow, my dear. Sunny day, keep smiling through just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know, tell them I will be home. They'll be happy to know you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. I got a little choked up there. Yes, God Bless America originally went in World War I, but saved, and then Irving Berlin changed that verse. You'll hear that I'll sing first. Kate Smith made it popular, and to this day it's the song we all know and love. Well, the storm clouds gather far across the sea. Let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so far, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
May God be with you. Take care of yourself. God bless all.
Bye, everybody.
Board the buses and go to war.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies.